Today we will learn about a famous Supreme Court case concerning the First Amendment. The name of that case is Texas versus Johnson. In 1984, the Republican National Convention was held in Dallas, Texas. A national convention is an event that occurs the summer before a presidential election. The political parties use conventions as an opportunity to announce their presidential candidates. In 1984, the Republicans were scheduled to announce President Ronald Reagan, who was running for a second term in office, as their candidate. Many protesters who did not agree with Reagan's policies had gathered in Dallas. One of these protesters was Gregory Johnson. As protesters chanted in the background, Johnson burned an American flag as a symbolic protest of President Reagan. Johnson was arrested by police and charged with desecrating a venerated object. Desecrate means to destroy, and venerated means admired. Johnson was found guilty and sentenced to 1 year in jail and fined $2,000. He appealed his case to the Texas State Court of Appeals, but they upheld his conviction. Johnson then appealed his case to the Texas Supreme Court, who overturned his conviction. His case was then appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. At his trial, Johnson was asked why he burned the flag, and he responded, "The American flag was burned as Ronald Reagan was being renominated as president, and a more powerful statement of symbolic speech, whether you agree with it or not, couldn't have been made at that time." In a 5-4 vote, the Supreme Court agreed that Johnson's actions were protected by the First Amendment. When the Supreme Court makes a decision about a case, they issue written opinions. Written opinions are documents that explain the court's reasons for ruling the way they did on a case. In the written opinion for Johnson's case, the 5 justices who voted to overturn his conviction gave several reasons for their decision. First, they said the government may not prohibit the verbal or nonverbal expression of an idea merely because society finds it offensive or disagreeable. The court also argued that the right to differ or disagree is a centerpiece of the First Amendment, and the government cannot make citizens feel united behind a symbol of unity, such as the flag. This means that just because some people were offended by Johnson burning a flag to protest President Reagan, it doesn't make it illegal. In fact, the court argued that the opposite was true. By being jailed for expressing his opinion, it was Johnson's First Amendment right to freedom of speech and expression that was being violated. The 4 justices who did not agree with overturning Johnson's conviction also wrote down their reasoning in the opinion. One justice argued that the ideas of liberty and equality have been the force that has motivated past American leaders like Patrick Henry, Susan B. Anthony, and Abraham Lincoln, and these same values are symbolized by the flag and should be protected. American citizens are divided on this issue as well. Some Americans feel the flag is a national treasure and should be protected. Others feel the First Amendment protects flag burning as free speech. Though each individual must decide for themselves, as of today, the Supreme Court decision reached in Texas versus Johnson protects flag burning under the First Amendment.